like sort of the underlying language is Java. So if you know Java, then you are pretty much covered. There are a lot of frameworks such as Spring. Also, they utilize the power of Java. And where I'm currently working, which is in big data analytics, you have things like Hadoop. Hadoop predominantly uses Java, and you have a lot of other, I would say, database or frameworks in big data that use Java. So yeah, you might be thinking, who the hell uses Java? Like major companies use Java. Your LinkedIn, Amazon, eBay, Netflix, Apple, Android, obviously, Slack, Google. I mean, these are giants. And if someone in this meeting says they don't recognize one of these companies, then I would say they're in the wrong class right now, because these are literally the giants that are running the world as it stands. So yeah, when like web companies start expanding, or like when they grow up, that's where they start utilizing the real power of Java. You can develop, I would say, smaller apps or things that don't need a higher computational power. Let's say, for instance, you're making an app that calculates numbers, or a calculator app. Yeah, you can use any framework. It will be fine. But when you start needing the computational power of your machine, or of the device you're using, in this particular instance, maybe Android phone, then you'll actually now need to utilize Java, because Java is where it's best optimized. You'll see when we go forward in was this sorting algorithms and everything. That's where you start understanding the real power of Java, and why Java is widely regarded in the industry. So these are the softwares you may need to install. Okay, some of the softwares you may need to install for you to use Java. So we have IntelliJ, which is what I'm using as well. Since you guys, I'm assuming most of you guys are students, or all of you are students, you can use the student version. So you sort of get the premium version, but since you're a student, you won't pay a cent, and that's what like Intellij is done for the student community, for you guys to fully enjoy like everything they have. So as a student right now, I would advise you to get Intellij, Android Studio, PyCharm, and everything that Intellij actually, or that like Eclipse gives, because for now it's free while you're a student. So Android Studio the is the IDE that you use to build your Android apps. It's very computationally intensive. So if you're using, I would say, a machine with less than 4 gigabytes of RAM, you are going to have a problem, because it can literally destroy RAM. I have 16 gigabytes of RAM, but when I start using Android Studio, it literally heats up my computer quickly. So yeah, that's something to be wary of. Okay, guys, let me pause here for a minute. Are there any questions so far? Awkward silence in the room. Sampi, are there any questions, or because I can't see the chat or something because I'm presenting?
There's nothing in the chat box, so I think you can continue.
Okay. So probably most of you have heard coding, programming, probably. So there's a difference between these, and you need to distinguish between the two. You can't use the terms interchangeably. It's the same thing as saying someone who did computer science did IT. Yes, in the industry, like saying that, and people generally like saying that, but those are two different things, and you need to distinguish between the two. Same thing as coding versus programming. So coding is a subset. Probably some of you guys do maths, but yeah. So this is where the term comes from. So coding is a subset of programming. It's like part of programming, not equivalent or not equal to programming. So with coding, you're just sort of doing machine readable inputs, writing lines of code, and making sure that your language and syntax is up to par. So if I may use another language, let's say C++, let's say I were to use a Java IDE, but write C++ code or C++ syntax, I am going to get errors because the language is different, the syntax is different, the way in which you write the lines of code is different. So the interpreter lying underneath will try reading the code that I've just written and you don't understand, because now what I'm conceptually trying to do is write like a wrong language using the wrong syntax for a different IDE. And that's where, when you code or when you are doing coding, that's where you mainly focus. Then when you're doing programming, you do that, plus you are now creating and developing executable machine programs, meaning things like your apps. You are now debugging and testing. So after I've created my calculator app, when I debug and test it, say I need to run unit tests such as like checking all the operations. Is the plus operator working as expected? Is the subtraction operator working as expected? Is the multiplication and the division working as expected as well? Meaning, I would say 1 plus 1, the expected output is 2. If I get anything different, then it means when I'm testing my app, then something's wrong, like in the logic, and I need to fix it. If I say like 1 minus 1, I should get 0. If I get anything different, then it means the logic is wrong. I hope now you start seeing the difference between programming and coding, because in coding, that's not what you focus on. In coding, you focus more on the syntax itself. Like when I write the code, how do I construct it or how do I write it? Say again, we're using Java and Python. In Python, I would just say 1 minus 1 and execute it, and it would give me the answer that it's 0. But now, if I were to do that in Java, it would give me an error, because in Java you need to specify your types, and that's what we'll be talking about after this line. So now that is coding, but now when we go back to debugging and looking at why am I getting an error, how can I test my app, or how can I test my program to see where I might be like creating problems for myself. Now you're in the part of programming, so you're translating requirements as well. Same thing as a calculator app. There are requirements such as when I add, it should increment. Obviously, I would say intuitively, everyone would understand that when you add two things, the overall sum should be more than the two integers or any two numbers that you added. So that's one of the requirements that we're talking about. You should be translating such requirements, documentation, review, and analysis. So also you need to document your code or the app. Say when you finish writing your app, can also come next week and say they decide the World Mathematic Forum or science community has decided to add a new operation. Say they call it something different. Say sigma, but we know that a combination of multiplication and addition for some reason, can now also come back later and edit your app, your calculator app, such that it implements or uses that functionality. So you need to write and you use documentation as to making sure that the other developers or the other people who might come and actually take your project forward, they are able to understand what you were doing and what you did at each point in time. So yeah, that is programming. And I hope now you see that programming is more broader than coding. So yeah. So here I am going to take you through the code in the slides. Then after this, I'll just go to the IDE, because I feel like when you see it in an IDE or in a coding environment, it's much more better. Because right now I can tell you that this code runs in, like, I wouldn't expect you to take my word for it. Reason being, this is just a PowerPoint presentation, a PowerPoint slide. So yeah. So when you write, like, this is how you write your Java programs, like at the basic level. So one, you need the main class definition. Like, it must be the same as the file name. So if you stored, say, your file name, like the file name is Mbuso, then the public class will be like public class Mbuso. Like, it can't be anything different, because when Java compiles, it starts from like the ground going up. So if it finds any discrepancy such that things are not matching, then it will raise an error. Also now, when you go inside, you like that. I think about a few slides back, I did talk about variables. When I said in Python, you can do things like 1 minus 1, and it will tell you that it's 0. But in Java, you need variables. You need to tell the program that when I say 1, is my 1 say this type or that type. So every variable, like every variable needs a variable type, e.g. like int for integer. Also you have double for floating point numbers. So yeah, and a variable name, obviously, e.g. prime number. So if I were to say, let's say again, in Python, 1 minus 1 is 0. In Java, I would need to say number 1 is equals to, like, int number 1 is equals to 1, then int number 2 is equals to 1, then say number 1 minus number 2, then that's when I can execute it and actually get what's this, a result. So the structure is like this. You have a variable type, you have a variable name, then you have is equal to the value. So the value is assigned to the variable type, the variable name, that is. So if here we have a certain name, then this value is, and it will take this variable type. An example being this one. So you have int, which is a variable type. You have prime number, which is a variable name, then is equals to the value, which is the like the number 3. So number 3 is assigned or is stored inside prime number, or inside the variable name prime number, and prime number is of type integer. So another thing that you mustn't forget is the semicolon. So you'll write 300 lines of code and forget your semicolon, only to find out you start getting a lot of errors, and you think that you wrote some rubbish code, only to find out it was only a semicolon, only the thing. So be careful of it. If you're writing notes, write down that don't forget a semicolon at the end of like your lines. So yeah, this variable stores an integer, a number without a comma. So as I said, I would assume some of you guys here are doing maths or have done maths, so you should know integers and floats, or I would say floating point numbers, such as 3.14, which is the pi. So when you store what's this? When you store names, for instance, or when you store strings, as they are referred to in Java, then you need to have the variable type of string. So variable names can differ. Like, you can literally call this variable name prime number and store like Elon inside. The problem here is that, say I name this prime number and stored a name such as Elon inside prime number. When you code going forward, okay, if your code is only like 3 lines long, okay, it's fine. but I wouldn't advise it. But now imagine if you're writing a huge code and someone now comes later, because you need to write code that can scale, can translate, and people can understand. Now imagine someone trying to use your logic later on. He or she will see something called prime number and they will assume it's a number, only to find out you store an elon. So be careful with your variable names and how you name them. Okay, so here name stores the string or the name elon, and as I said, the variable type is of type string. So whenever you want to store, say, Apple, name, Elon, fridge, computer, then I would say characters, you need to use string, then use also the double quotation so that Java knows that this is actually not another, say, a variable name or like an error. So by including what's this, the colons, then you've somewhat told Java that hey, look at whatever is inside, and that thing must be treated as one entity, and it's not a variable name, or it's not a variable type, or it's not a mistake. I just want you to take whatever is inside and store it in this variable. So we also have another variable type of type Boolean. So Boolean is like literally this type takes into, it can take like only two, what's this, outputs. So it's either true or false, 1 or 0, yes, no, positive, negative. It can only take two, nothing more and nothing less. Okay, actually, less you can, but yeah, that's what Boolean literally does. And now you have double. So with double, it gives you more memory for you to store whatever you want to store, like whatever I would say number that you want to store. So if you were to store, or if you were to try to store this number like 3.14159 in int, an integer, it will get this, then say, but for an integer, you only need sort of a whole number. So it'll just get here, then truncate or cut from the 0.14, then just take the 3. That would be an integer. But for a double, it can take like numbers with a decimal, or like, yeah, it can take numbers with a decimal. But with double, you can also store, like, let's say 3, you can store 5, you can store 7. The problem there is that you'd actually be using more memory than you need, because double is meant to be or to be used to store doubles rather than just you storing, I would say, integers. So if you want to use, say, you want to store 3, you want to store a whole number, rather you use int, not double. So same here, this is an integer type, not integer type, this is a variable type, then this is the variable name, and this is the value that's being assigned to the variable name. Yeah. Okay, let's see. So yeah, now we move on to arrays. So as you saw in the back a while, let's just move it bit, say here for prime number, you see that with int prime number, you can only store one value at a time. So what about when you want to store, say, 2, 3, 4, or 100 or a million values? Then what do you do then? Because you can't store them in like one variable. So like, what do we do then? That's where arrays are introduced. So still here, it's an array of I would say, prime numbers, and you can store as many as you want. So here you need to declare again, same as you declaring your variables and giving them a variable type. So here you need to give your array. So here, as you see, our array is of int, hence integer. So this array stores integers, like numbers without commas. Same thing as a string. So if you want to store multiple strings, you can do the same thing, declare the array, give it the name, and start storing the values. And again, with string, as I said, you need to make sure that the quotation marks are always there. Then with Boolean, same thing. So you remember when I said you can only store 2 values. So even with the array, you can store 1,000,000 values, right? But the 1,000,000 values have only 2 values. So each of the int, like you have int prime numbers, you have 35, 7, 11, 13. You can go up to infinity, or as much as Java can carry in the array, right? So these, like as you can already see, we have 5 unique values here. But for Boolean, you can only take 2 at a time. So as you see, it's true, false, true, false. You can have 1,000,000 true, false, but the unique values, there's only 2 of them. So you can also have yes, no, and 1,000,000 of them. But for you to save memory, it's best for you to use like a Boolean array, because now you know that you can only store 2 at a time, because you can't have a maybe. Like it's either yes, no, true, false, positive, negative. So even if you have 1,000,000 of them, they'll just be 2 unique values, which is either true or false, yes or no, 1 or 0, and so forth. And here, back to double. So you see that we have double heights, for instance, and you're storing all the numbers with a comma. Moving right along. So this is how we like extract info or what's stored in arrays. If let's move back a bit. Say here, for instance, prime number. Here I've stored 3 in prime number. If now I want to use this variable name, I can literally just say maybe prime number divided by 3. Then I would expect my answer, because this gives me the immediate value since it stores only 1. But what do you do when you have an array? Because say an array has 5 values, you cannot just say that array maybe divided by 3. So like, do you want a specific number, or do you want to divide every number in the array by 3? So you need to specify the logic. So hence now we speak about how do you actually access your arrays, and that's where we get here. So you actually again need to specify like a variable name, give it a type, and the type must match the type of the array. So here you see it's prime numbers, and you are saying give me the prime number at position 0. Position 0 is the first one. So with coding, let's see which program actually uses. I think it's MATLAB, but I'm not sure. But with most coding languages, they start from 0. So there's this joke that they like to make in like the I would say coding community, or like programming community, that good programmers know that we start from 0. So when they say access an index at 10, they mean access something at position 11. So if they say get something at position 1, they actually are saying get something at position 2, because when we start indexing, we start from 0. So something that's at 0 is the first one, and something that's at 10 is actually something that is at, was this position 11. So that's how like the arrays work. So again, as I was saying here, you cannot say maybe string name is equals to prime numbers at 0, because now what's stored in prime numbers are integers, like numbers without commas, and you cannot store them in string. But again, as I said, you can use a double here. You can say maybe double my number is equal to prime numbers at 0. It will still allow you, but as I said, that you'll be wasting a lot of memory. So I wouldn't advise you to do that. So yeah, as the comment says here, my number is equal to 3, the first value of the prime number array. Okay, I see a typo here. Check here. So when we say my what's this prime number at 0, we are saying give us this index. So this would be at 1, and this would be at 2, this would be at 3, this would be at 4. Then that's where the length of our array would actually be 4, not 5, since we are counting from 0. Hence, when you'd be writing like loops to loop around this, which I'll show you in the code, you'll actually see that you do not get to like 5. So 5 becomes the upper bound. So yeah, same thing with the string. So to extract in the string array, you literally give it the variable type, the variable type, give it the name, then says name it 2. So here you're saying give me the third value, because let's go back here. So what it will say 0, 1, 2. Then it won't give you mark, because I know like it's easy for you to assume that it will say 1, 2, then give you mark. No, it will actually say 0, 1, 2, then give you bell, because with a lot of coding languages, Java included, they start indexing from 0. And guys, that is the end of the slide. Right now, I'll just open the code in the IDE so that you guys can see firsthand. Let's do this. Can everyone see this? Like the IDE and the code?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the confirmation. So yeah, literally everything that I was. Oh, by the way, this is the Intellij IDE. As I said, you guys as students can get it for free, and you somewhat get the premium version. Right now, I'm using the community version because hey, this thing, Charles, you actually have to pay the subscription. But it's actually a great idea. I still love it to this day. I got used to it as a student, and yeah, I guess it's the idea that I recommend for everyone, because it makes a lot of things like a whole lot easier, and it makes debugging easy. You can literally follow like indentation and see how everything is well written. So as I said, I think someone is muted. Okay. So this is the body of our program. So I would say everything like runs here, and everything is constructed here. That's the head of everything. So when we go forward, I'll introduce you to classes. So you'll see that even when we implement classes, whereby you might have, say, 100 classes this side, but the point of reference or where they'll be called is in the main. So the main is literally, I would say, the head. Yeah, so here right now, that's where you see the code. And another thing that I like about the IDE, you see right now, when I hover over like the variable, it tells me that variable prime number is never used. So you get to have such functionality which is obviously beneficial. So yes, you have your int, you have your double, your string, Boolean, as we were talking about in from the slides. That is. So again, you have your arrays here, you have your string arrays, Boolean arrays, double, and everything. So this is the loop that I was referring to. We'll cover it, I guess, in more in more depth as we go forward. But here, as you can see, the coding language, it somewhat mimics English, or I would say natural languages, as we often refer to them. So here, I'm literally saying this is a for loop, by the way. So that's why you see the for. There's also there's also a while loop. Yeah. Oh, again, you see the IDE. It actually gives me the suggestion. So there's also a while loop. There's a range-based for loop. There are different loops that you can utilize. There's a do while loop depending on what you need to do. So here I'm saying for. So I'm actually now there's a three. This is split into three. So as you see the semicolon, so anything before the semicolon stands on its own. So here I'm saying for int I, and what I'm saying is that declare an integer I equals to 0. This one can be anything. It can be J, can be M, can be whatever. But yeah, I guess it's just I would say coding or programming convention that we use I, J, M, K mostly in loops. So yeah, so I'm saying my integer I is equals to 0. Then here I give it the termination condition. The termination condition is what must be met for this for loop to end, or for this loop to end. Because if it doesn't have, say, a termination condition, it will run until it kills my RAM, or it will run until it fills up the RAM. So say I do something like this, and the termination condition is true. True literally will always be true if you think about it. So meaning the termination condition will never be met. Or if I said something like 1 is equals to 1, like this will always be true. It will never change. So every time you look at a termination condition, always ask yourself the logical question as to, will this thing terminate at some point in time? Or will this thing get to a point where it no longer proceeds? Then here you have the update statement. The update statement says, okay, you've now declared an integer I is equal to 0, fine. You're saying I should be should always be less than names.length. So in other words, you're saying I should be less than the length of the names array, and our names array is this one, and our names array actually is 5, but I'll actually come back to that one. Then for the update statement, you are now saying, okay, we've heard that it should always be less than the length of the names array. Then what must happen? So we are saying I++. So I++ is saying increment, like after each loop, after you've circulated once, increment this I by 1. Obviously, it won't reflect here, but in memory, it will keep a stack of everything that's happening. So in the first loop, it will do this. It will run while I is 0. Then at the end, it will update it to I is equals to 1. In the second loop, it will do this for I is equals to 1. But obviously, here don't update. You just need to know that it's actually doing it in the background or in the stack. Up until this condition is met, that or up until this condition is violated, such that I will be greater or equals to names.length, then this loop will run forever. here we're just saying system to print out names at I. So names at I, you remember when I said back in the slides, I said you can print out names, or you can get whatever is stored in arrays by indexing whatever is there. So like in this particular instance, you're saying names at 2, which means I'm actually saying names at 0, 1, 2 in position 3, essentially. But what if I want to access all of them? Like I want to access all of this array like at the same time. Then this is the manner in which I'd actually go about doing it. And if we run our code, it should give us this exactly. So it does give us what we expect, because it first ran for the first iteration and said Elon, then for the second iteration then said Mark, the third one said Bill, Warren, Tesla, then terminated. The reason it terminates now is because yes, our loop does this. It says at 0 we are here, at 1 we are here, at 2 we are here, at 3 we are here, at 4 we are here. Now when it increments for the last time and says 5, this is now violated, because it will never reach like it will never, like it is not supposed to be equals to the length or the total length of the array. What it then does is that, since we strictly said it should be less than the length, it then terminates, because now if it's equals to the length of the array, like we've essentially violated the condition or the stopping criteria. Hence, it then says, you know what, I'm now equals to this, hence now I'll stop, and it doesn't execute. So yeah, this is the gist of it. This was the introductory class, guys, and I'm just trying to spare enough time for you guys to ask any questions. And yeah, this has been it. So you can draw in. Oh, I'm gonna put your name, so please forgive me. Salfina, you can ask right away because I see your hand is up.
Okay, so you mentioned the IDE. I don't know what to call it, but then that you're using to do the coding.
Yeah.
I think I didn't catch the name.
Oh, okay. So right now I'm using Intellij. So it's literally it's written like this. So if you were to go to Google and search Intellij IDE, then you actually get it.
I found Eclipse. Is it okay?
Yes, Eclipse is still okay as well.
Okay.
Yes. Hades, sorry for butchering your name. You can ask a question because I see your hand is up.
Sorry, no, I just wanted to know where we can download the Intellij thingy.
Okay, you can actually download it on Google, literally. If you go on Google and you search this Intellij IDE, you will actually get it. Then you can look for, you can either look for the community version. Yeah, then when you feel like you've gained confidence to sort of attack things like unit testing and other aspects of coding, then you can look into upgrading it and like using your student account, since Intellij will give you like a free account while you're still a student. So if you go to Google right now and you search this, you are going to get it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any more? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So also, I just wanted to know, in the second last line of coding, where it says system out, that line, what is next to the print? Yeah, I can't see between the print and the N.
The print.
Yeah, there where your cursor was just now, like, yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is print line. Okay, it's called
Okay.
print line, but it's ln. So yeah, so here you are saying print each, like print each item on its own line. So this thing takes in the IDE or in the interpreter, it says take this entire line and just print Elon, then go to the next line, take this entire line and just print Mark, go to the next line and print Bill, and so forth and so forth. So if we were to do this, for instance, let's recompile it. You see what it did right now? It printed Elon, Mark, Bill, Warren, Tesla, all in one line. So the print line give them space to breathe, so to say. So when you say print line, what it does is it will ensure that it prints one element or one item per line. Did you understand that one?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any questions? You can ask anything, guys. Even if it's a bit personal, maybe you want to know about how to survive at words or something. I mean, just shoot.
Hi. Will we be doing any interesting projects or something like that? And another thing, what do you do? Like, what do you do at work? Are you doing anything interesting? Any interesting projects?
Okay, Tumelo, are you what first year, second year?
Yeah, no, I'm doing my master's, Chief.
Oh, nice. Okay, so it depends on what you're busy with. I will try to think of maybe an exciting project, but also we need to first cover the content. Maybe towards the end of like this, I will sort of give a small-ish assignment. Obviously, it's not for marks, guys. It's literally for fun, such that you guys can play around with the concepts and you get to see or like do the things that we talk about in action. And yeah, to answer your question of are there any exciting things that I do at work? If I don't even know where to start. Like there's literally everything great about like what I chose. If I were to go back and sort of be given, I would say different options to pick from, I think I'd still choose this one. There are a lot of projects that we do. Some of them are somewhat confidential because I work for a bank, but there are a lot of data like analysis projects that we perform. This other time we're busy with adding a few features on what's this, your FNB app. I don't know if some of you use FNB here, but yeah, using Java, there are some features that are now added. We're even adding some extra layer of security, such that the like when you now inquire with let's say bankers or people via FNB, then will now require that extra layer of authentication that you can do. And these are all projects that are running in the background that people might think lightly of, but they actually go a great way in terms of ensuring people's money is safe, and the functionality, the app, and the usability is generally nice, and people don't feel as if it's another piece of tool that we just throw in their hands and it has no use. So there are a lot of projects that I'm doing at work, and even on my side, I am doing some projects, but obviously not related to Java. Those ones, it's more JavaScript, CSS, HTML, and some data analysis.
Yeah, no, that sounds very interesting. So you also are doing Java, HTML, and all that. That's for websites, right? So you're doing websites, you're busy with websites as well.
Yeah. So at the beginning of this lecture, that's why I did say you'll get to a point where you realize that it's more about thinking more than just coding. So taking an example, I have a personal project that I was busy with, and when I first started it, I was thinking third year, and the decision I had to make was, do I make an Android app? Yes, I can, but should I? Or do I make something that can cater for a lot of people? As it stands, I can do some iOS programming, but the problem is that I don't have the license, because iOS is sort of like, they have that bubble such that for you to enter, you need to have the proper, like, I would say, licenses and everything. So I needed to make a solution that can cater for a wide variety of people without having the worry of being native specific. So if I was native specific, I'd need to have one for iOS, Android, Windows Phone, BlackBerry, if someone even uses BlackBerry, Windows Phone, yes, Windows Phone accounted, and other operating systems. So the best thing for me, which again, I sat down and more like used logic here, was to build a website is the safest way to go, or to start, because you know that, okay, a lot of people can access a website. So now there you start using your JavaScript for, like, as a coding or as a programming language. Because HTML is not a coding language or a programming language, guys, so don't be fooled. It's just a markup language, and also CSS is not a programming language. It's sort of to style the sheets, like to make them look beautiful and everything, to make your HTML look great. Then for you to make websites clickable and do all of these other functionality that you need on a website, that's where you actually use JavaScript. So if you understand Java, okay, another misconception here, JavaScript and Java are not related. So what happened was that back in the 90s, when these guys were implementing JavaScript, they actually saw that Java was popular around that time, but they wanted people to see what they've developed, and they wanted people to catch on what they've developed, since it was a game changer, which is true. So what they thought was, how about we actually just steal the name, just let's call it JavaScript, because people will see the Java and they will jump onto it. But after they've jumped onto it, as much as they'll realize later that it's not Java, they'll actually be now hooked to the language itself, and add more value. So yeah, that's how it ended up being JavaScript. So Java and JavaScript are nowhere related, and they are not interchangeable. But if you understand Java, you can literally go to JavaScript and just fix your syntax, and you're good to go. So you can have somewhat a 1 week crash course. Okay, if you understand Java, you can have a 1 week crash course in JavaScript, and you'll be fine. So at some points you can actually do it in less time, but yeah, it all depends on your pace.
Oh, one last thing. Sorry for this, but You know, I was quite interested into websites as well, but I lost interest very quickly because I kind of realized that templates and whatnot, so you can just take a template and to your website. So in my conclusion, the conclusion that I got to was that doing a website is not so, so interesting anymore. And I feel like that's what I'm struggling with now. With the languages that I'm trying to learn, I get to a point where I learn everything, the basics and everything. I get to a point where I'm unable to come up with some nice projects to do. How do you think I can overcome that in a way?
Okay, there are various ways to overcome that. And when I was still a student, okay, I'm making it seem as if I've been gone from Vets for 10 years, but it's only been a few months. But yeah, when I was still at Vets, maybe because of online learning, there might be like some societal or community problems within Vets that you may not see. So when I was still at Vets, as much as I would get bored at times after learning the basics, the things that I would see around would somewhat motivate me to do better. So back in second year, me and my friends, we made a bus app. I don't know if you know, like some of you know the Vets bus system. So we stayed at Nokendo, and we'd always miss the bus. And sometimes we miss the bus in vital times, like exam or test, what's this, seasons. And that really bothered us. But since we, like in second year, we had just learned about this Android development and Java and like all of this cool stuff, we're like, okay, since we are bored, how about we make something that will add value to the Vets community? Like we're not doing this for money or for anything. We just want to make an app that will add value to the community. And we actually did complete it. I think it took us like 3 months. We gave it to Vets, but Vets has a lot of admin, so it's busy circulating around the offices there. But it's been developed, it's ready. It's like we are just waiting on Vets to say, hey guys, we are now good to release it. But the app was literally to track the bus movements. So if you stay maybe at Junction, you'd literally see the bus leaving Main, and you'd know what time to leave your room, because even at Junction they had this problem of being mugged or muggings or something like those. So it would be safe for you to know where the bus is for you to leave, and that's you literally adding value. So something like that, like you wouldn't necessarily be demotivated quicker, because as much as you now know the language, you are doing something that adds purpose to the society, to people's lives, and is actually making a difference. Yes, you might be doing it for money, you might be doing it for the passion, you might be doing it for just to keep yourself active, or for a resume, if just in the future you want to apply for like job or anything. But the gist of it is that you'd be doing something that is literally adding value to you as well, and you wouldn't get bored quicker, because the thing of you not finishing the project will actually push you towards the end. We also did this project using here we used HTML. Actually, it was a game, so it was like a maze runner, but we sort of like called it a vet runner. It was flagged by what ethics and what office, because I don't know, we used the vet map without vets authority, whatever. But also we're just making it for the vets community, such that they can play like a fun game. It was developed also on JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Literally a basic game that like you're just running towards vets. You get some missions. You probably run towards the Great Hall. You get a mission. You run towards was this Hall 29 and so forth. So that's what I'm saying. You can literally look around and just find some problems, and then ask yourself, in the skill set, that I have, what can I develop such that can solve the problem that people are having, or can add value in the community I am. It doesn't even need to be advanced. Maybe you stay at res and they have some problems with their Wi-Fi or something. but my friend actually did make this back in first year when he made an app that could act as a Wi-Fi extender. So say there's only 3 routers working in the entire building. The app could be used as a Wi-Fi extender. So the 3 people or the few people that are closer to each router and they have the app on, they could somewhat extend the Wi-Fi to someone who's far away from the router, but sort of in the actually they could extend the router the router signal to someone who's somewhat closer to the person but far away, like further away from the router. So the person who has the app and closer to the router would be like a midpoint. So there he was just using, funny enough, he was just using what's this, like basic grade 12 maths, like the theorem of Pythagoras and like some midpoint, like the midpoint theorem, that when you have a central sort of point, this is what you can do, or this is what you can leverage. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. It all depends on what you want or the problems you're facing. Then those can literally motivate you going forward. I see a hand up. You can ask.
Hi, I've downloaded the program now, and now it just says like I need to configure some things for the installation, and yeah, there's a few boxes to tick. That's it. One says add, and then in like in inverted commas, open folder as project. And then there's like create associations, and then there's .java, .groovy, .kt, .kts. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you know the word length of your machine? Like, is it a 34-bit or 64?
It says 64.
Do you see any box that says the 64-bit or something?
Yes, I clicked that already.
Okay, yeah, that's the only one that you need. Then you can proceed. Okay, for now, that's the only one that you need.
Okay, so I'm gonna send it. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. Okay, guys, any more questions? I can give you up until 1:15. Questions? So is it safe to assume that no one has any questions?
Oh yeah, no question. Just want to say thank you. I'll try to use the approach of.
Okay. Please keep me updated. You may build the next Facebook, so yeah.
Sorry. Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Okay. I've installed the program now, and it says, there's another box that I have to, could check now. It says run the Intellij Ide. Should I tick that box, or should I just say finish?
If you want to like finish the installation and run the IDE, then you can tick that box. But yeah, it just depends on you. But I would say just tick it so that it starts and you actually can get to click around and see the IDE itself.
All right, thanks.
Okay, no problem. So is everyone having Okay, is everyone okay with like the IDE, or are you guys using alternatives, or are you gonna download them? Like, are you gonna download it at some other time?
Yes, so far I have the Eclipse one, so I'll try to download the other one when I get time. I'll be using the Eclipse.
Okay. Even Eclipse is good. Like, because everyone has like different preferences. I just prefer IntelliJ, not that it's maybe superior or whatever. No, I just prefer IntelliJ, and someone might prefer Eclipse. Other people may prefer other IDEs. So yeah, so don't feel pressured to use IntelliJ. If you're comfortable with Eclipse and you can get the work done, then go ahead. Any questions?
Can I ask about database?
Yeah, sure.
What is database? I mean, like, what does it do?
Okay, so a database is an infrastructure that stores raw facts. So when I refer to raw facts, I'm referring to something that is a fact but is in an unprocessed form. So for instance, let's take your name. Your name is your name, like you don't change. That's true, it's a fact. But when now we have, say, 100 people with your names, and we go about saying in our database we have 100 people with the same name, so we've now processed the raw fact, and it's now revealing meaning and giving insight. So that's what we do with databases. Databases is like this, I would say it's like this storage infrastructure that we make, and it has to be beautiful, clean, neat, well, well structured, sort of like you're picking books in some container. And now all of these raw facts literally have to be clean. They have to like fit a certain structure, and they always need to stay sort of in one location, such that we can access them easily. Like there should be one point of location. So that's why we have databases, because initially we had papers, then we had things like Microsoft Excel. So if you have Microsoft Excel, for instance, I can have those 100 names, or I can have the data in Microsoft Excel, but you can't access it. Simpure can't access it. Like no one can access it except me, or if I share it with either one of you guys. So now that is the problem. So with the database, it's sort of decentralized. It's sort of centralized, I mean to say, such that everyone can access those raw facts at any point in time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's me again.
Okay.
I am at the like activation stage now, and so it says activate and the Intellij or evaluate for free, and then there's an option to buy license. Can I buy the license? Like, can I click on that? Or because yeah, it says like you need a password and everything. And then, yeah, it says get license from JB account or activation code or license server.
Go to Google and search Intellij student account, because last time I checked, they actually supported the VETS account, like the VETS student accounts. So what you can do, I just don't remember if you need to register or what, but what you can, yeah, I think you may need to register. So you will use your VETS email, like your student number at students.vets.ac.za. You'll also use your ICT password, the password you use to log into.
Where should I use these now?
go to Google first and search Intellij student account. I think they should give you an option to register.
All right.
Oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
So when you search Intellij student account, literally the first link that came for me was free educational license, community support, JetBrains. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you click that. Then there's for students and teachers, for schools and universities, for training courses and boot camps. So you only stay for like only on the tab of for students and teachers. Then you'll scroll down and say apply now.
Yeah, I saw. Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. Guys, my time is up right now. Unfortunately, I have to leave. I guess I'll see you next week. So if you have any questions, please just jot them down, and we'll I'll answer them next week.
Okay, thank you so much, Mbuso, and thanks to everyone.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for attending as well. At least I didn't come here to talk alone.
Okay, bye.
Bye.